Perfect,
Right, so
yeah.
what? Yeah, one, two, three. Okay, welcome to the latest episode of the Soccer Podcast Show. I'm your host, Paul, and I'm delighted to be joined by our guest today, Jim Conlon. So, Jim, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
No problem in the word, Paul.
Okay, now, Jim, we're going to do a preview of the last 16 of the Euro 2024 campaign. The group stages are over, and we're now down to the knockout stages, which it gets really interesting. The last 16 games, so we're just going to go straight into it. So first up on the 29th, two games on the 29th, start of the 29th. The first game up, we have Switzerland versus Italy. So what are your thoughts?
I suppose first of all, Paul, just to get the biasm out of the way, Italy were my tip for the tournament before it sort of started, and I put a small little sort of thing to say, hoping for Italian sort of success. But no, I think this is a very intriguing tie. If you look at Switzerland's run to get to Euro 2024, very, very impressive, while Italy barely, dare I say, got over the line in terms of qualifying. But we always know the Italian mentality when it comes to tournaments. They're very much a tournament sort of team. That's when they sort of excel. Looking at both sides' performances so far, and while an awful lot of critics will be saying that Italy are a bit blunt up front in terms of a number 9. The performances actually in the three games have been quite good, actually. I found their performance against the first game showed real resilience to come back and really put the game to bed after the early shock from Albania. I thought they played a good lot of good football against the Spanish team, especially on the counter-attack, and especially passing through the lines. The midfield, I thought Barella was quite influential. I thought the back four, Bastoni, Calvalori, DiMarco, they all played well. It's just up front, probably that let them down against Spain. But if they had a bit more ruthlessness, they opened up the Spaniards 2 or 3 times. In terms of that, and then against Croatia, they showed a never say die attitude in terms of that. And really, when it was put to the color, the test for the last 20 minutes, I thought they really came on strong. So just a quick stat on this is that Switzerland, their last 11 appearances with Italy in competitive games, they've never beaten Italy. So that's over tournament football qualifying. So 11 games, the last 11 games, they have yet to beat Italy. There have been 1 or 2 draws, but each time, if there has been a decisive result, it's gone away the Italians. Now, Calfori, the centre half, is suspended. More than likely, Mancini, the centre half from Roma, who's a real quality defender, is going to step into his place. So that's not going to weaken with Italy at all. The real influencing part for this is how well is going to Granit Xhaka, the former Arsenal midfielder. Is he going to be able to boss that midfield to break up that link play there with the Italians of Barella, with Jorginho, with Frattesi, that normally plays in that sort of Dynamo 3, that sort of passes and spray the ball. Switzerland up front, they've good options with Embolo and Vargas and Ndiaye. They've pace in behind, something that Italy don't have. And then Kanji is a renowned centre half. But just one thing about tournament football and knockout football, and Italy have a way of getting the job done when it comes to knockout football, and I do think they will prevail in this one. Many people think it might go to extra time, but I think they might get the job done in the 90 minutes. And for me, I'd be tipping a 1-0 victory for the Italians in terms of this.
Yeah. Now, Jim, just before we move on, a quick word. We all know about the strength of your panel. I seen the last game, Italy brought on a few subs, as you mentioned, against Croatia, and they made a difference. Will that be crucial, maybe, if this goes into extra time or even in the normal time, just into your panel?
Yeah, well, that's the one thing about the manager. He isn't being afraid to shake it up in terms if things aren't working, he's making the changes early. He made the changes when they needed to be made against Croatia. He was whipping players off at half-time, bringing players on. So he has trust in his depth and his squad in terms of players are not performing, that he will make the changes. He's not like the English waiting for the last 5 or 6 minutes to make a sort of change in terms of that. And he has severe pedigree winning the Serie A title with Napoli as well. So he's an experienced manager. Murat Yakin, the former Swiss international over the Switzerland team, good professional player in his day at Basel. But in terms of the managerial side, you think the Italians might have the one up there as well?
Yeah, so we're going for Italy in that game, Jim. Now, Jim, we move on to the second game on Saturday. We have the host nation, Germany, who topped their group, and they're playing Denmark. And of course, that for the old timers, that'll bring back memories of the 1992 final, which Denmark won, will say. So, so Germany topped the group. What do you think of Germany so far and as host, or just your general thoughts on that tie?
First two games were probably the team of the tournament, really, in terms of that, and they were showing no sort of flaws. They rattled Scotland with fair ease, fairly decisive, comfortable victories against Hungary. But the Swiss asked them one or two questions, and Switzerland are a good team and showed up some sort of maybe one or areas that Germany might be have vulnerabilities about it. And one thing going into this tie, which will give Denmark an awful lot of hope, is that Jonathan Tah, the first choice centre half, is suspended for this game, and Anthony Rudiger, there's the Real Madrid defenders, there's doubts whether he will make it. So that's the first choice defenders, central defenders that Germany have played up along, that might not be available for this tie against Denmark. And when you think of Højlund and Manchester United playing for Denmark up top, and he might be going up against two centre halves that have yet to kick a ball in the tournament if Rudiger is injured. Well, Taz definitely suspended in terms of that, so that might give Denmark an avenue, a platform attack. But I didn't really expect much from Denmark to coming into this tournament. I thought one or two of their elder stars had waned a bit in terms of Højlund at Spurs hasn't played much this season. Eriksen, obviously a talented player in his day, but I shudder to say that maybe his best days are behind him. So for Denmark to get out of the group, I thought was an achievement in its own right. In terms of, I think they're a team that's waning a bit in terms of their powers. Germany, the big question I have for Germany is up top again. Füllkrug is a really impactful sort of striker, and he had a great season for Borussia Dortmund. And while Kai Havertz's form is patchy and it's up and down, and he's capable of doing great things, but he's not what I would call an out-and-out goal scorer, a natural goal scorer. So in these tournaments, I feel Germany in the past with Miroslav Klose, with Thomas Muller, they're probably more natural goal scorers. So I just wonder, will Nagelsmann mix it up a bit and maybe start with Füllkrug and maybe have Havertz come off the bench as an impact player, which I think Germany might get an awful lot more out of Havertz if he was coming off the bench with around 20 minutes to go in terms of that. Because I just feel at the moment that maybe playing in that false sort of 9 role, Germany aren't really getting the best out of him, and maybe as an impact player like what Götze did the last time Germany won the World Cup, he could be wreak more sort of havoc. But for me, even with the injury doubts hanging over Germany's head, I think they will get the job done in this one as well. And while the other game might be low scoring, I think that Germany might have a bit of a buffer here. So I'd be saying 2-0 to the Germans. Now,
Jim, just before we move on, as you mentioned in the last game against Switzerland, Germany were 1-0 down. It was in injury time, I believe, but they kept at it. And typical Germany, and I can remember 30, 40 years ago, they're not beaten, as the old saying goes, Jim, until you're going home in the bus. They got a goal in injury time to get a draw on top of the group. Is that a good sign again, traditional Germany? I know there's a lot of young players in the team, it's kind of a new team, but still, that traditional, they'll go right to the very end. You have to beat them in the final whistle.
I think that's what Nagelsmann would have wanted from that sort of game, because let's call a spade. The 2 games against Scotland and Hungary were no contests for Germany. So Switzerland provided them with their sort of first test of the tournament, where they met something that was a bit formidable put in front of them, and it asked sort of questions. And in fairness, Germany responded well to those sort of questions that were asked of them. But it also showed up maybe chinks in the armour that maybe Scotland and Hungary weren't good enough to expose as well. So that means that Germany have 1 or 2 things to work on going into this Denmark game. But it's just a question, are Denmark as good a side as Switzerland, and can they ask the questions the Swiss ask? And I'd have my doubts about that.
Yeah. Okay, now, Jim, we move on